Welcome to a very special edition of 843 TV. I'm your host, Wayne Morris with WHHI-TV.
And I'm Will Wareham with WHHI-TV. And today we are here on the south end of the Parris Island Marine Corps Recruit Depot at the site of the Santa Elena settlement. And joining us today is Dr. Daryl Ferguson, who's the chairman of the board of the newly founded Santa Elena Foundation.
And our second guest is Mr. Andy Bell. He's the executive director of the foundation. And
our final guest is Mr. Joe Lee, who is the town councilman for Port Royal and also a member of the Santa Elena Foundation.
Yeah, this is a very cool episode, kind of some groundbreaking stuff here. They're claiming that this is actually not Jamestown, but this is actually the first settlement in the United States. So it could be huge news for our area. You don't want to miss it, so make sure you come back for 843 TV.
Where communities come to speak.
TV, where Bluffton comes to speak.
843 TV, where Port Royal comes to speak.
843 TV, where the town of Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
.843 TV,
where communities come to speak. Welcome to 843 TV. We are now pleased to be joined by Mr. Daryl Ferguson from the Santa Elena Foundation. You're the chairman of the board. Thank you for being here today.
Welcome.
So how important is the discovery of the Santa Elena site, and what does it mean for us?
Well, this will shock you, but we now know that this is where America really began. You and I were taught that it began in 1607 at Jamestown, Virginia, and then on to Plymouth Rock, 1620. But we have concluded with all the support necessary that what is now the United States was started right here. And basically this was the first major settlement, European settlement, in 1569. It wasn't Jamestown, and it was not Plymouth, Massachusetts. This was also the first major colonial capital, the first colonial capital in what is now the United States. And Spain at that time considered La Florida, its claim was the entire 48 states, Canada to the Keys, and from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
Wow.
That's how important it is.
That's pretty big news.
It's huge news. It's international news.
Yeah.
And it's now taken on, you're going to hear a lot about Santa Elena because now it's getting out and there's a lot of interest in saying, how do we share this knowledge?
I want you to repeat this again. Now, you're saying that the town of Port Royal is actually the first settlement in the New World, not Jamestown and not Plymouth Rock.
Well, that's right. Since technically Port Royal has jurisdiction over Parris Island, the world started with Parris Island and Port Royal.
There, and we're going to put that in the history books.
That's right.
Because we were talking earlier, you know, when you grow up in school, I mean, there's so many things about history that are just explained that way. They're not necessarily true.
Well, the other thing they do is they explain it as independent events. Mm-hmm. They don't show it in context. I was talking to a high school professor, teacher, and he said, we do a wonderful job in names and events, but we never connect them to.
Right.
And what we've done, and Andy will tell you in a minute, we've connected the dots, and it's an extraordinary story.
That's awesome.
So what was important to Spain coming here to settle on Parris Island?
Well, Spain, of course, believed it owned the entire property of the lower 48 states. And soon after Columbus discovered America in 1492, the year was 1494, the Catholic Pope said to the world, Spain gets all of the new of the Americas that was not previously discovered, so it didn't get Canada. So Spain in its eyes had this, and they put a lot of money into probes. And then a big thing happened with that discovery of Americas by Columbus. They discovered gold and silver. Well, to come back home, they had to actually come between the Bahamas and Florida and get the winds toward the trade winds toward Spain. So they were open to pirates right here. Mm-hmm. And where's the best harbor that they knew of at that time? It was right here, Port Royal Sound. So they had to have Port Royal Sound. If they didn't, the French would get it.
So it's for protection from pirates.
For protection, and especially against France.
Yeah.
This was actually a race between France and Spain to conquer the territory of what is now the United States. And the history books say nothing about that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So we know what this site is being used for now. We're here on the south end of the Parris Island Marine Corps Recruit Depot.
Right.
What was the primary mission of this site back in the 1500s?
Well, in the 1500s, the primary mission, and this will surprise you, one was to protect the harbor from pirates. But two, a goal of the king, King Philip II, a goal of the first governor, who was an incredible man, Pedro Menendez, was to develop an inland road to Mexico from here, from Port Royal.
From Port Royal to Mexico.
From Port Royal. And believe it or not, they got part of the way there. They got all the way to Tennessee. It's just an incredible story behind the story of Santa Elena.
And they needed the gold to fund their wars.
They did. They also wanted to get the assets from the area. They wanted to convert everyone to Catholicism. So it was the first Christianity, first major mission age, and this was actually the first fur outpost in what is now the United States.
So if on an international scale and a national scale, if the world can begin to accept this as fact, wouldn't Spain have a big interest in this? I mean, have you thought about going to their government and asking for the documentation, helping them help you fully prove this?
Well, with the help of the Department of Interior, we talked last year with the ambassador from Spain in Washington. They opened the doors, and last April we went there, and Spain is 100% behind us. And Andy right now is working with Spanish representatives in Florida and Spain. I'm working with a few. So you're going to see a lot of involvement by Spain.
Mm-hmm. What would it mean for them, really, in your opinion, if this was proved to be 100% true?
I'll tell you what it's going to mean. First, economically, you know, Spain is just gradually coming out of the recession. And so when we went there and we met with the cabinet level people, we basically said, do you know that the foreign tourism revenue which you get, all countries except from Spain, coming to Spain, you only get 2% from the United States, but the UK gets 10%. We're talking to the top people. Mm-hmm. They weren't aware of this. And they said, well, why don't we get 4 or 5% more? So one very reason is if they increase their tourism to the United States, from the United States to there, it's about $1 billion and 10,000 jobs. So they have a real self-interest to make Spain more of a talking point. And Spain was here. This was their first settlement, first European settlement, first European capital.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
And stay with us. The whole show today is going to be about this very subject, so be sure to come back for more 843 TV.